Good morning, students. Welcome to my channel. On this channel, I'm going to discuss various topics of English language and literature. Today, I'm going to discuss William Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice, which is a part of the literature syllabus of classes 9 and 10 for the ICC board. In these videos, I'll be giving out the explanation for the text. I'll also be discussing some possible questions and the key points that will form up the answers. This is the reason why I'd urge all of you to sit down with a notepad and a pen so that you can jot down the key points, jot down the answers. That's going to be helpful to you. Having said this is my maiden attempt. So these change times have made me as much a student as you all are. Therefore, I'd urge all of you to write in your comments below so that I can improve my videos such that they can be of better help. It is important to understand that Shakespeare did not write his plays to be read in classrooms, as you all do, but he wrote them to be performed on stage. He was writing for the 16th, 17th century audience, which did not have as much an exposure as you people have in terms of worldview or education or entertainment even. Therefore, I'd urge all of you to observe the play, read the play from the perspective of a 16th century audience. That might be slightly difficult to do, but I'm definitely going to help you out in that. Also worth mentioning is a complaint that I keep getting every year. Why do we have to read Shakespeare? Nobody talks like this anymore. I agree that the language is an archaic one, but try and think, what makes a literary work a classic? A literary work becomes a classic when it is read even ages after it was written. We keep making references to them, use quotes from them. We remember them because they have been breakthrough works that have decided the direction of a society. Observe Shakespeare's work. You might be too young to understand this at this point of time, but it is true that he was an artist. With his words, he has painted the 16th century society, the times, the characters, so much detail, such vividly that you can almost see them happening around you. If you look at the people around you in your families, classrooms, or neighborhoods, I'm sure you'll come across a devoted person like Antonio, or a woman with a lot of wit and humor like Portia, or somebody who talks as much as Gratiano. Therefore, you will see that Shakespeare's works help us to understand our own environment. I agree, Shakespearean English is not used anymore. Neither will be the English that you speak be in use 200 years later. You see, language is much like a living organism. It keeps changing and growing with time and cultural intermingling. New words get coined, expressions change over time. The point is, what do you do to be spoken about even ages after you're gone, even ages after the language you speak is gone? You read someone from 200 years back to find out what made his work a classic. So today I will introduce the play, its major themes, characters and the title. Now Shakespeare's first acts, and in the first acts, the first scenes are always significant. All of his exposition scenes, that is Act 1, Scene 1, they give us a preview of the entire play. At the end of the scene, you'll get a fair enough idea about the direction in which the play is moving. The major characters get introduced: Antonio Bassanio friendship, the group of the other friends. Portia is vividly described in Scene 1, although she does not come in person, but her description is there. Scene 2 brings Portia and Nerissa and Portia's promise to her dead father, and Scene 3 talks about Shylock and the terrifying bond. So Act 1 as a whole puts the events into motion and the play moves forward. The play takes place mostly in various places in Venice. A few of the scenes take place in Belmont, and there's one scene particularly which happens on the way from Belmont to Venice. Now I'm going to discuss the theme of Merchant of Venice. The primary theme of Shakespeare's romantic comedies is love. Now, Shakespearean romantic comedy typically features a story of love with comic interventions, humor to lighten up the serious scenes. A Shakespearean romantic comedy will always have a happy ending, which will come after overcoming a lot of crisis and obstacles. Bassanio happens to be a fortune hunter when he expresses his desire to marry Portia, the wealthy heiress of Belmont. But subsequently, he praises Portia for her qualities, compares her to Brutus's wife, and also shows his strength of character in the in the choice of caskets. It is evident that Bassanio is charmed by Portia's qualities and her beauty. He might have come across as a fortune hunter in the beginning. Subsequently, his character develops and he is seen as a better person than a mere seeker of wealth. Portia also reciprocates Bassanio's feelings of love, hence we know that the feeling is mutual. And both of them are equally stressed before the casket test and equally overjoyed right after the successful attempt by Bassanio. The second love story in this play is that of Jessica and Lorenzo. It is a passionate, lyrical, and poetic one, and contrasts distinctly against the more sacrificing love of Portia. Jessica deeply loves Lorenzo. She so much so that she disregards her religious distinctions and elopes with him, leaving her father's house, going against her father. So Lorenzo too swears by Jessica to be by Jessica's side, remaining devoted to her all his life. There's a third love story in this play, that is of Nerissa and Gratiano, which is undertaken following the fashion of the Elizabethans, in which the servants would mimic the habits and behavior of their masters. So over here, Bassanio has won Portia's hand in marriage. Nerissa also agrees to get married to Gratiano. However, an important feature of this third love story is that it is not prompted by love, but it is a calculated step prompted by common sense. The third theme of the play is love for wealth. Money is of vital importance in this play. We get to see the different attitudes of people with regard to money. In this play, Bassanio is attracted to Portia's wealth and her beauty. Antonio is generous with his money and readily provides financial help to people. Portia values human qualities over and above money. The other friends also acknowledge the importance of wealth while justifying Antonio's melancholic state of mind in Act 1, Scene 1. Then you have Jessica. She decides to pick up a lot of wealth from her father's store when she leaves with Lorenzo. Shylock has been presented as greedy for money, in that he takes interest from people who borrow money from him. However, Shylock is also seen to value his thoughts of revenge more than money when Antonio comes to him asking for help. For every other person, money is actually a means to an end, but for Shylock it is not so. Money lending is his business, and it is his greed for more money that causes him suffering and his subsequent downfall. The theme of justice and mercy has also been touched upon in the trial scene. While Shylock keeps demanding for justice, Portia hinted that mercy is more valuable than justice. Shylock wants the law to bring about an end. Portia favors law that it should support the human cause. She points out that the plea for justice can be destructive and that mercy can redeem you and save you from disaster. The last theme of this play is appearance and reality. What appears to the eye is not always true. It is often said, all that glitters is not gold. There is much that appears as something but is not so in reality. So in the beginning, Shylock pretends to befriend Antonio, trapping him in his terrible bond using some sweet words. However, he turns out to be vindictive towards the end of the play. Then Jessica pretends to be submissive in front of her father, but actually conspires and plots behind his back and elopes with Lorenzo. So, this suggests her rebellious nature. Then, outward appearances are deceptive. This is also revealed in the casket scene, where the gold and silver caskets make big promises but deliver little. However, the lead casket seems to threat, but it is the one which contains the prize, the real prize. The lottery had been devised in this manner by Portia's father only to judge the sincerity and the integrity of Portia's suitors. The Prince of Morocco, upon choosing the gold casket, reveals that he is greedy. The Prince of Aragon chooses the silver casket and reveals that he has pride in himself and he thinks himself to be a deserving person. Bassanio alone, in choosing the lead casket, shows his appreciation of the dangers of choosing by appearance. Even in the song, while Bassanio is making the choice, reveals the same thing. It keeps saying that fancy is something which is superficial. Bassanio makes several comparisons while making his choice of caskets. He makes several comparisons to prove that what is viewed on the outside is not always so inside. Finally, we see Portia and Nerissa dressed up as men when they travel to Venice to go to the Duke's court. Much of Shakespeare's plays were written in a queen's reign, but the average woman of his times did not enjoy a revered position. Okay, she was not given a high position in the society. Yet, in his romantic comedies, Shakespeare presents his female lead characters as those with wit, humor, common sense, strong will, although they were not very highly educated. We can see this as a playwright's attempt, as an author's attempt to present the brighter side of the women, although it might not have been acknowledged in the society at that point of time. The next topic to be discussed today is the title of the play. Now, the title of Shakespeare's plays all of his plays are named after the major character. In Merchant of Venice, Antonio is a passive character. He does not do much, but the story revolves around him as a result of one action that he performs. In this play, both Antonio and Shylock are merchants involving in trading large sums of money. But Shylock is presented as an evil person, as an evil character. He is called the Jew and Antonio is referred to as the merchant. Jessica too bears hatred for his ways and wants to save herself by marrying Lorenzo. But Antonio is always the royal merchant. He has been referred to as the royal merchant who has business sprawled all over the world. He is helpful and generous and does not bother about petty interests like Shylock. He is a link between the main plot and the subplot. Therefore, we can clearly assume that the Merchant of Venice, over here the merchant refers to Antonio and not to Shylock. The last part of today's discussion is going to be the characters of the play. Now, there are some major characters in this play and some minor ones. One of the major characters is Antonio. As I just said, that it is Antonio who is referred to as the merchant in the title Merchant of Venice, and he is a melancholic person by nature. He is a true friend of Bassanio. He is generous to people, but in spite of all the good qualities that he has, a negative feature is that he is prejudiced towards the Jews. The next important character would be Bassanio. Bassanio is an extravagant person. He's the true lover of Portia, has genuine feelings for Antonio, but also has a lot of contradictions within himself. Portia is the heroine of the play. She is what we can say is a person with beauty, with brains. She is practical and resourceful, witty and humorous, compassionate, with distinct feminine qualities in herself. Shylock is the Jewish moneylender. He is a complex and contradictory character. He is a devout Jew. He has subhuman nature because of his bloodthirsty attitude. He's vengeful and cunning and greedy as well. There's a touch of oppressed human being which arouses sympathy in the readers. Nerissa is the servant, maid, and a close confidant of Portia. She's smart, sharp, and witty. She's worldly, wise, and practical. Gratiano is Bassanio's friend, Nerissa's husband. He's a garrulous talker. He's witty and outspoken as well as sarcastic. Jessica, the wealthy Jewess, is Shylock's daughter. She marries Lorenzo. Gives us an understanding of what Shylock's household looks like, and she's also beautiful and intelligent, although she's seen to be a person who lacks moral principles. Lorenzo is Jessica's husband. He is a friend of Antonio and Bassanio and is seen as a romantic and artistic person by nature. The last person that I'd like to discuss over here is Lancelot. Lancelot Gobbo is a jester. He sleeps a lot and he's fun-loving, witty and vain. And he brings about a comic relief in the serious parts of the play. Also, he acts as a connection between Jessica and Lorenzo. Now, there are several other characters who are also performing the roles of friends, of the servants to the major characters, and other members of the society. Hence, you see that none of the characters that we come across over here, they are all good or all bad. They are a mixture, they are a combination of good and bad in them. They have a mixture of good and bad in them, just as the people that we see in our surroundings, the people we are. I come to the end of today's discussion. I'm going to come soon with the next video wherein I'll be explaining the text. Children, I'd request all of you to subscribe to my channel so that you can get updates of my videos immediately as soon as I post them. Thank you, children. Have a great day. We'll meet again soon. Bye-bye.